Hi, I'm Sam Kirk, Managing Director at JFlex. We're a second generation family business based in the East Midlands. And in simple terms, we supply industrial rubber. And that means lots of weird and wonderful widgets go out of our doors on a daily basis. So blocks of rubber that sit underneath oil rigs for 25 years, although not the best industry to be part of at the moment. We supply bits of rubber that are used to form car parts and solar panels, and even bits of rubber that are used as collapsible hooks fitted to the back of prison cell doors up and down the country. And I'm not going to start explaining why they're collapsible. I'm sure you can figure that one out for yourselves. In terms of our business history, we started back in 1984 by John and Jill Kirk, mum and dad, out of hours, and we started at home. A couple of years later, we found our first ever warehouse facility, and then in 1990 we moved on to even bigger premises that had office space as well. 1998 we moved to our current premises, and that's allowed us to grow without the need to relocate since then. We've also launched a distribution partnership in Australia in 2004. 2010 we started JFlex India with a general manager and office in Mumbai, and in recent years we've celebrated 35 years and also won a few awards as well. Structure of the business, as I mentioned, I'm the managing director. John, my dad, is the chairman of the board. Mum acts as our secretary, and we have a senior leadership team in place that is trusted to take the business forward onto bigger and better things, all being well. In terms of challenges that we've had to overcome, I guess like many family businesses, succession has been a major challenge for our business, and that's something I want to talk about today, as well as the current coronavirus crisis. So our succession challenge, our succession journey if you like, started back in April 2017 when John, having just turned 64, said, right, I'm going to retire at the age of 65. And we all laughed to start off with. Nobody believed him, but he started saying it more and more. So gradually we took more notice, and eventually we asked the question, how do you plan a succession process in 12 months, or less than 12 months as it was? And the answer, in the end, was quite simple. We asked everybody in our network of contacts that very question. How do you plan a succession process? And eventually we met a chap called Tim. Now Tim's quite an experienced family business mentor, coach, non-exec director, whatever title you want to call it. And he came into the business and helped us with two areas to start off with. The first area was vision and strategy, and the second was leadership development. Now the first area, vision and strategy, to put it bluntly, we didn't have a vision or a strategy. Now I've told this story quite a few times and people think I've been really critical when I say that, and I'm not. It's part of a longer sentence, that phrase. We didn't have a vision or a strategy that had been communicated, that had measures in place, and it had ownership. And that creates a problem. That problem was the shareholders thought the business was going in one direction, you got a management team thought it was going in a different direction, and you got some people who got no idea which direction the business was going. So that had to change. So Tim got us to write down our interpretation of the company's vision, and he read out each one individually. And surprise, surprise, we'd all pretty much got the same thing written down. So we then formulated one master vision statement that we communicated to the organisation. We put measures in place to make sure we could achieve certain goals, but it was still lacking one area, ownership. And I think that was a byproduct of culture. And we'd had a culture for 33 years of being told what to do, and we were trying to go for a more leadership, a more empowered culture. And that's a gradual process, and that's where the leadership development bit came in that Tim supported us with secondly. And it's a journey that we as a business are still very much on, and it's a journey that comes in three stages. The first stage is managing, and that's very much the day-to-day stuff, the planning, the setting goals, the monitoring, essentially doing things right. We then move over into coaching, which is all about coaching and developing people, building relationships, building trust, and eventually move over to leading, which is all the top level stuff, the strategic thinking, having a vision, providing direction. And all of a sudden that doing things right becomes doing the right things. It's a subtle difference, but a massive change at the same time. And that is still very much the journey that we are on. To make that journey, we've had to make some changes, essentially make sure we've got the right people in the right seats. People think that's a cliche, that phrase. It really isn't. So far, in the last 6 months, we've had to change 2 out of the 5 members of our leadership team. We've had to bring in a new head of sales who was looking at the bigger picture rather than looking at the smaller picture. We've had an FD that's retired, so we've had to recruit a brand new finance director. And actually, that's really helped us with the current challenge that we are facing, coronavirus. So the current coronavirus challenge, in some respects, linked to the succession challenge that we've had to overcome, in that making sure we've got the right people in the right seats will help us to navigate through this crisis. If you take our new head of sales, for example, we're now looking at the top level stuff in far more detail. So we've got thorough forecasting, thorough order book, a thorough order review process. And those 3 things, they sound quite simple, but we just haven't been doing them in the same structured way that we are now, the same detailed way. And equally, our new finance director is looking at top level items on a more regular basis, rather than focusing on the day-to-day stuff. That's now being done by our finance colleagues, leaving the finance director to look at the top level stuff, the budgeting, the cash flow forecast, vitally important. This is a cash flow challenge just as much as it's a business challenge. And having a cash flow forecast that is not just based on one assumption, based on multiple assumptions, is really helping us right now. So based on worst case scenario, best case scenario, and somewhere in between where we think we're going to be based on current levels of activity and the current implications of coronavirus. And that's also helping us to make decisions. So if we know that this is going to happen based on this, then we can make this decision. It helps you make decisions without emotion as well. And too many times in business, family businesses in particular, business decisions are made with emotion, and they're not always the best decisions. So I think those 2 are the biggest challenges that we've had to overcome in recent times. Certainly we're not overcome coronavirus just yet, but we're getting there. Succession is certainly a hurdle we've overcome, and I'm really pleased with the progress that we are making. By no means the finished article, still very much work in progress. What does the future hold for business? I have absolutely no idea, given the current circumstances. I just think it's amazing that businesses are making it work at the moment. The new normal, virtual meetings, making sure that we've got social distancing in place. I think every business that's making it work, give yourselves a big pat on the back. I'm more than happy to discuss and share stories outside of this video. I'm on LinkedIn. Please do feel free to connect with me. And who knows, maybe at some point in the future we may be able to all meet up in the same room and actually have a proper physical conversation.
My name is Rachel Baker, and I am the Commercial Director of J.J. Smith & Co. Woodworking Machinery Limited. We were founded in 1923 by my great-grandfather, John James Smith, along with his 3 brothers. We've been based in Merseyside for our whole existence and currently work out of our workshops and offices in Kirby, although, as you can see from my location, currently many of us are home working during the COVID-19 outbreak. We are specialists in woodworking machinery to a variety of industries, but many of them are linked to the house building trade. We supply machines that are used in the off-site construction industry, which is when buildings are constructed inside a factory in modules and then transported to the final location once completed. We also supply machines for manufacturing windows, doors, staircases, sheds, furniture, basically anything that you make out of wood. We have grown from the days in which we produced our own machines to now being the UK's largest independent distributor of woodworking machinery, and we now supply machines all over the world. We currently have 32 employees, of which a third of us are descended from the original 4 brothers. Among the rest of our employees, we have a number of people who are related to other employees or whose parents used to work for us, so we have a real family feel throughout the whole company. This means that many of our employees work for us for a very long time. We even awarded a 60-year long service award a couple of years ago. We have a board of directors made up of 3 third-generation and 2 fourth-generation family members and 1 non-family member. We have a large engineering department that install, maintain and repair machines all over the world, and a number of salespeople and support staff based at our offices. One of the aspects of having a family business that is family run into the 4th generation is that succession planning becomes very important. We have faced in the past, and will face again shortly, a generation of family members coming up to retirement at the same time. 2 of our current directors were even born on the exact same day. This is a challenge for us right across the business, and one that the current board have been working at for a number of years now. We started on a 10-year succession planning process for a number of key roles, from business administration and director training through to recruiting a number of apprentices to replace our engineers who are coming up to retirement. Knowledge and skills acquisition takes time, and we took the decision that while there is a financial cost to have people doubled up in some roles for a number of years, this was key to ensure that the business was in the best possible position to be secure and sustainable into the future. 10 years might seem like a long time, but it is definitely working for us and is enabling a gradual transition of roles between people rather than facing a cliff edge. One of the slightly unique features of working in a family business is that many of the people that you work with have known you for your entire life and often know far more about your personality than people would know in a non-family business setup. Sometimes this may require a shift in how people see you, particularly if you're in a leadership role. I really believe that it takes time for people to adjust to someone younger than them coming into the business if they've known them as a child. A long-term plan can really help with that transition. Something else that I think is crucial in terms of succession planning and in terms of how family members are viewed within the company is that family members aren't seen to be given roles that they wouldn't have got if they weren't family members. For us, it doesn't matter if you're a family member or not. You need to have the skills and knowledge to be eligible for a role. Most of our current employees, including many family members, started off as apprentices and have worked their way up to the levels they are currently at. Other family members have had formal qualifications or training that ensures they are equipped to do the job that they do. It isn't just enough to be the best person for the job, you also have to be seen to be the best person. We have a real belief in the value of apprenticeships and the value that can be brought to a company from them. We are based in a borough that regularly features at the top of league tables for poverty and youth unemployment, and we want to provide good, solid careers for local young people. We currently have a fantastic group of apprentices. We take on 2 new apprentices each year who are rising to the challenge of working in our industry, and we have high hopes for all of them. One of our current board members, who is a non-family member, started working for us on a youth training scheme programme, so you never know where a trainee can end up. Across our industry, there was a bit of a skills gap when people stopped training up engineers, and as a result, trying to recruit a new woodworking engineer is currently a huge challenge. For us, the answer to this has been to train up from scratch apprentices who can then progress into the business as engineers, having learnt the skills that we need. I think that memories are longer in family businesses, and as such, decisions are often made with a wealth of previous experience of similar situations. None of us have ever faced a global pandemic before, and the implications of lockdowns and social distancing. But as a business, we have faced other challenges, and we can draw on those experiences to guide us through the current one. We have always had a recession plan, which involves us having 2 arms to the business, one that does well when the economy is doing well, and the other that keeps us going when times are tougher. I've been lucky enough not to have worked through some of the really tough times that the company has faced in the past, but I do remember the effect that they had on my dad at the time, and I think that helps to keep a note of caution in the back of your mind about being prepared for the harder times, as well as when things are going well. We have weathered many storms over the years, and I am confident that we're in a strong position to weather the COVID storm too. Once we're through this period, I'm looking forward to a bright future for JJ Smith, one in which we continue to supply the world with the very best woodworking machinery that leads the way in terms of innovation for our industry. I'm looking forward to seeing how our current apprentices can grow and shine as engineers of the future. I'm sure if my dad had been giving this speech 30 years ago, then nobody could have imagined the digital transformation that has led to the way we are all communicating today. So I wonder what will have changed by the time someone from Generation 5 is in my position. Family businesses have long memories, but also long futures ahead, and I'm very proud to be a part of mine.
Whitakers Chocolates was formed originally out of a bakery that was opened in 1889, actually a grocer's shop in 1889, that my great-grandfather opened. Him being the son of a farmer, didn't want to be a farmer anymore, and he thought, I'm going to be something else. So he opened up his grocer's shop, and his 2 children, about 15 years after the shop had been opened, wanted to turn the shop into a confectionery shop instead of a grocer's shop. Thereby began the long history of Whitakers and confectionery and ultimately chocolates, because one of his children, Ida Whitaker, learned how to make chocolates and was taught by, believe it or not, the local vicar's wife in 1903. So through both the world wars, we were a small town confectionery company and bakery, having moved to Skipton in 1926, run by my grandfather and his sister. And some 30 years later, my father joined the business and looked at what we were and decided that chocolate was really to be the focus and not baking. He hated baking. He thought it was the road to nowhere, low productivity, short shelf life, and the competition was fierce and supermarkets were starting in earnest. So his focus was to be in chocolate. And he persuaded his mother in 1961 to form Whitakers Chocolatiers Skipton Limited, as it was. And his dedication and focus was really into chocolate and opened up different sales outlets than normal retail shops. And our avenue was to sell into hotels and restaurants. And we had a particular product that did very well called the Mint Crisp Wafer. So well, in fact, that in 1970, after 10 years of concentration in chocolate, he bought a machine developed in Germany and became really the most productive, focused production of after-dinner mints that he could imagine. 10 years later, he sort of excavated a bit more of the garden where the factory was based and put in some more machinery. And every 10 years, really, there's been a new process that's been developed in the art of chocolate making, and has been very, very focused in the products that it produces. Today, in addition to myself, my father is the chairman of the company, and my wife, Gemma, she's the marketing director of the business, and Robert, my son, he's in charge of all the website and social media platforms that we run today. There have been many, many challenges over the years, as you'd expect for a business that's over 130 years old. Whether it's the First World War, the Second World War, or really today, even more relevant, the processes that we're going through, the changes and the challenges today. But they've all got one thing in common, really, is how you're able to adapt. In fact, as Charles Darwin said, for a species to survive, it doesn't need to be strong or even intelligent, it just needs to be adaptable. And the challenges that we've had have all been where to spend the money, where to invest without getting out of step, and balancing liquidity against investment, and how far do you stick your neck out. Always having something in reserve, other options, plan B if you like, in case it doesn't come off. We all know we need a little bit of luck along the way, but you just not got to get out of step. Yes, you've got to think ahead, but you've got to have you've got to be adaptable. One of the most significant moments in the company's history is every generational, really. It's when time comes to consider how to develop the business to the next generation. It's how to deal with the fact that there are shareholders that some of them work in the business, some of them don't work in the business, some of them are remunerated, some aren't. How do you reward those that are? And how do you work on a figure to satisfy everybody if you want the business to continue in the future? Our biggest challenge is in three, well, I'm the fourth generation, we've now had 3 generations actually buy out the other shareholders in the business. And that particularly has been the hardest challenge, I think, over the years. It's not necessarily the ultimate direction of the business. We've had that experience, or got that experience, to understand where we want to invest and where our chosen markets are and how to do that. Without doubt, the biggest challenge has been how to say goodbye to other shareholders and keep the business in the business in the family, to be honest. Many lessons have been learned, and they are today more valid than any other with the COVID-19 pandemic. The biggest lesson is not to be overstretched, to invest, keep the business well invested, but not too far. You have to be flexible, have another plan in case things occur, because it's not always going to go right. Yes, you need a bit of luck, but you've not got to get out of step, and you've got to use the opportunity that, particularly now that we're in, to make the changes that you can. This situation today, where the business is actually closed for the first time in 130 years, every aspect of the business was closed for 3 or 4 weeks. It's how you use that time to readjust, to plan, to do the things that you've considered doing before, but never been able to do because you've been too busy, you've never been closed. So you've got to turn the negative into a positive and understand how you can use that opportunity to benefit the business now and going forward, on the assumption that you're going to get to the other side. And on that assumption, we'll actually be in a better position because we'll have done all the things that we've thought about over the last 10, 20 years that we've never been able to do before. Many times over the years, because we've been so focused in food service products and the industry itself, and we are the largest manufacturer and supplier of chocolates to the hotel, restaurant, catering, food service, travel business in the UK. It's been tempting many times to completely focus in that area and get rid of any other processes that we do or products for other areas like retail or own label or seasonal or gifting, because we've felt sometimes we've been too stretched in too many areas. But it's a very good job that actually we didn't just focus in one area, because today we wouldn't have any sales or any other opportunities at the moment to continue the business running if all we had done was hotel restaurant sales, because those markets are closed. So we've actually understood by having the product range adaptable to more than one market and more than one season and more different types of packaging, that as long as the production is so very focused on its investment as to what products it's going to produce, that the variety of packaging and sales options has been a real strength for the business. Whereas in the past we've wondered really, should we be doing it? Having learned that lesson now, we are at pains to develop more retail focused products that we can to spread that risk even further. One of the things I've noticed over the years is, and particularly it seems to be accelerating, is that there's nothing more certain today in business than uncertainty. But if you know that, then, and you want to be in the business, then that's an advantage to know that. We are affected by events from all over the world, even before COVID-19. Whether it's the currencies, the state of the economy in different countries, because we're so well connected around the world now, and we ourselves have an export arm, we sell in over 20 different countries, that we're all our antennae, if you like, all our barometers, we're affected by whatever events are happening around the world. So my advice is that focus, invest into niche aspects of business, get better and better at what you do, and make sure that whatever that is, that you make it very difficult for anybody else to touch you.